The imperative to enhance research translation and productivity is incumbent upon higher education research institutions. Here at the University of Delaware, we are building business processes and resources that facilitate greater institutional collaboration across diverse colleges and units. With the support of NSF Arts investment through Cooperative Agreement Award 2331440, UD and the Prizio team have planned, customized, and implemented a Salesforce instance for research translation and innovation project management. I am Tracy Schickel, and I lead industry engagement at the University of Delaware. My colleagues and our collaborator will walk through key considerations in the customization and building processes, a look at the instance capabilities and dashboards, challenges, and planned next steps. Next slide. The university has reimagined the resources supporting faculty innovators and has moved from a historic generalist model to a specialized model that's focused on technology sectors. The restructure continues to be in process, with technology transfers, hiring, and resourcing plan complete. Their team is well positioned to understand each IP-producing faculty's needs and aspirations as it relates to their research and its translation. Units focused on external engagement with government and industry have built capacity with NSF support, particularly in the life sciences sector, which is a key strategic area of focus for the state of Delaware and our innovation ecosystem. Our colleagues in development and alumni relations support research translation through engagement of our alumni network and philanthropic interest in supporting these strategic priorities. Together, these three units collaborate at the service to faculty researchers in support of enhanced translation and impact. Next slide, please. In the planning phase of an institution-wide CRM resource, diverse units with colleagues whose primary responsibility is in external relationship management were invited to participate. Over 30 people representing 9 different units from colleges, departments, centers, and institutes and staff functions participated and had a voice and ownership in the design. The objectives of the CRM tool were to elevate the impact of external partnerships, facilitate greater collaboration across units, enable easy access and use through centralized administration, and then to further empower faculty to focus their time and energy on what they do best. Next slide, please. In the situation analysis at the beginning of the planning phase, Discovery produced that there were 5 active units and disconnected Salesforce instances supporting unit-specific activity. Further, there was no accessible source of data with external collaborator contact and project information from across the institution. Next slide, please. An internal team from IT, industry engagement, Salesforce administration, and development and alumni relations was formed with the primary responsibility of customizing and implementing a minimum viable product, or MVP, that supported research translation and innovation project management. Campus tenant organization Prizio, with specialists in Salesforce customization, were contracted and engaged to support the aggressive timeline and process. And now Sirisha Mehta will speak about the specifics of the project in greater detail. Sirisha?
Thank you, Tracy. It's my pleasure to introduce my team here at Prizio, a Salesforce partner company co-founded by our Salesforce practice lead, Ravi Balakrishnan. As Tracy mentioned, my name is Sirisha Mehta. I'm the Salesforce Principal Consultant here at Prizio, and along with my team, worked very closely with the UD team to make this project possible. Not only was I the main resource in architecting the final solution, but also the resource to actually build out and configure their Salesforce org. So having said that, I do want to walk you through the what, the why, and the how of this implementation. What were we working towards? Why were we working towards it in that way? And how did we go about accomplishing this? So next slide. So as Tracy mentioned, right, the prerogative in working with the core team was to build a minimum viable product in order to support research translation, leveraging as much as possible the out-of-the-box functionality that Salesforce has to offer. Now, Salesforce as a CRM has many different products, and we leverage Sales Cloud that allowed for this project to utilize as much native functionality as we could. This was done by using the Salesforce structure for any entities, right? Companies, project collaborators, PIs, postdocs that were involved in a project, as well as leveraging it to capture internal and external communication and engagement, whether it was emails, phone calls, follow-up engagements or meetings, and the like. Now, we did build upon this with some custom configuration, specifically to accommodate the information needed to capture project-specific needs related to research translation. And so in doing so, we kind of go into the why, because this last point touches upon the fact that we wanted to build an institutionally scalable solution. So next slide. So in kind of identifying our what, right, we also identified our why. Now, as Tracy mentioned, the UD Salesforce ecosystem had 5 disparate instances of Salesforce that didn't really talk to each other. And so at looking at the long-term vision, we wanted to create a solution that reduced technical debt as much as possible, while reducing the level of customization so that we could iterate and extrapolate this to a final vision of a unified Salesforce environment. It's always our prerogative to create as less technical debt as possible, and Salesforce is a great solution for this without needing code as part of the solution. And as Tracy mentioned, we also built the solution within an existing Salesforce environment. So in doing so, we were able to leverage any existing configuration in that org so as to reduce any kind of extra effort needed there, and also to ensure that we didn't disrupt any of the current users in that Salesforce instance. And as mentioned, in doing so, we were able to create a solution that we can see can be iterated on and extrapolated to either other Salesforce environments that exist in UD today and to that future unified vision for UD. And so in doing so, we were able to build this proof of concept in light of that bigger picture. Next slide, please. And so how did we go about doing this, right? Now, I could really get into the, kind of minutia and the technical aspects of this, but what I want to underscore in this slide is the methodology, right? Firstly, in working very closely with this core team, we were able to work with our key stakeholders and decision makers and reduce the number of voices in general, but also ensure that every person's, expectations and pain points were heard in leveraging the core team and their relationships that they already had internally. We also conducted discovery workshops to ensure that any desired functionality, whether it was part of MVP or not, future enhancements and pain points were heard so that we can document this and then work with the core team to identify what we need to implement now versus what can be tabled for later. And then because we are a consultant, right, we use agile methodology. And all that means is that we used an iterative approach, ensuring that there was never a time towards the end of the project that our core team or any other key stakeholders were seeing something for the first time, and allowing for any feedback to be taken into account in that iterative manner so that we could put it into place with each demo that we showed our team here. And so in doing so, we were able to, again, successfully create a solution that works towards the longer term vision for UD while also fulfilling the requirements that they had at this very moment for research translation. So having spoken to the what, why, and how, I'm going to pass it over to Nicole to continue on.
Excellent. Thanks, Tarisha. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Murley, and as Tracy had indicated earlier, I'm the Director of Industry and University Relations here, a function that's within Tracy's division of UD, a role that's certainly looking forward to using this tool, but I also came to the team with about a decade's worth of experience in developing and implementing this tool at smaller organizations I was with before, and so was happy to contribute in that way. I want to just start in my portion, right, by diving in a little bit further to what Sarisha had just mentioned in terms of methodologies, and actually just talk about the fun portion of what we got to do as we rolled out the tool. Because I think as anyone who is trying to do this work also understands, its implementation and adoption is what's mission critical, right? The tool's only as powerful as it is used. So we had a lot of fun as a team, as you can see by our nice little selfie here that we took a few months ago, really rolling out this functionality. And so just wanted to share with everyone that we did, as Teresa mentioned, a number of live, they did discovery sessions, but then we did a number of live training sessions as well. You can see maybe one of the most popularly attended ones in that picture, where we were trying to just get a general sense of the tool and its functionality for folks. We, of course, did not have a lot of data entered at that point, right? We were working on that live time, but really foster engagement and its potential functionality across those various units. There were video tutorials that were made available and were readily used because, of course, when you're trying to walk or work across an entire enterprise, you can't capture everyone at the same time. So those video tutorials were very helpful. We also decided in our 3-month, on-ramp period to conduct a number of digital office hours. And so the team here was literally available 2+ hours every week for 3 months for people to stop in as they were diving into the system, as they were encountering problems live. And we had a number of people take advantage of that. And then we were able to kind of summarize those conversations and share those out with others too, right? So it was a real learning experience. We acted like professors in that capacity. And then we also wanted to really incentivize folks because we did know that in some sense, this is a new tool, this is a new lift. In some sense, it's also a little bit of duplicative data entry as we're moving to a new system. And so we wanted to make it a little bit sweeter for folks to do that. And so we had a friendly internal competition: who could enter the most contact records, who could enter the most project records. And then we gave some nice little prizes to folks who did that. And that was a great dinner that we all had together. And so instead of taking more time kind of talking theoretically, right, about what the system is for us, we wanted to also provide the opportunity to dive into the system itself. And so knowing that doing a live demo would run up against maybe some confidentiality issues, right? Because there's, of course, going to be live account records and project records and things like that available. What we decided to do was create a mock environment and just kind of screenshot that and show you that via slides. So that's what I want to do next. And I'll just posture at the beginning that you're going to see two different things. You're going to see two slides that are really super focused on research translation. You're going to see an example of what we call a project record. You're going to see an example of a dashboard that helps us see all the project record information in the aggregate. But you're also going to see two slides that leverage a different kind of functionality, as Sarisha also mentioned, which is this ability to use all this data to kind of capture engagement relationship information as well. So it's not just a technology, right? And is it moving from point A to point B? But it's a relationship between the University of Delaware and an external partner. And what does that relationship look like? And how is that morphing over time? So those are the 4 slides you're going to see. So without further ado, I'll just pop right in. And here's hoping I have the technical know-how to advance the slides and look at you at the same time. Anyone familiar with Salesforce is going to recognize this kind of format, these kinds of colors, this kind of layout. This is pretty typical of any type of record. But what you're looking at right now is what we call a sample project record. So this is our view of individual research projects, right, that we classify as having translational potential. And so in little Salesforce blue, right, you'll see some rectangles come across. At the top, again, super familiar is the header. You see a lot of the project title information, but on the right, you always have this kind of quick action menu, things like edit, delete, change the record type, change owner. This just gives users the chance to make updates without having to scroll through the different portions of the record, right? So it's nice to have that at the top. Every record always has this section called related quick links as well. And this is a really nice, like, one-click access to things that are connected to this project. So I could click on project participants and see the individual people that are on that project. I could click on project organizations, and as it, kind of hints at, you can see the organizations that are participating on it. The notes are note summaries, right, that are attached to meetings that are connected to this project. So it's a really nice area to have all that right there at the top. Super critical portion is what's highlighted now, which we call the stage gate tracker, which helps us visualize the project's progress through the research translation lifecycle. You can't see what would be on the very left there, but that's like, ideation and exploration, right? And on the very right, of course, is post-commercialization. That's what we've set it to be. You can actually customize that funnel. And anyone who has used Salesforce as a project management tool is familiar with this funnel as well. It's also a really nice tool to build and triggers and automations, right? So if we wanted to, we could say at the development phase, right, we want to contact so-and-so from this office or trigger this task to this office, right? All that stuff can be built in automatically, and it's a nice way to manage the flow here just from Salesforce alone. And then at the bottom is a lot of detailed information where you can try to capture some of the core data for the project. I have super condensed this. This would usually take up a lot more space on your screen, but you can capture things like, the project identifying information, the management information, who's managing the project, financial information, things about the impact that project has had. And again, all of these fields and the types of fields, right, are customizable. So you can really make this capture what you want it to capture. And then lastly, for this one is the activity section on the right, which is really where I spend most of my time, because you can in one place see meetings that are happening in relation to that project, email correspondence that's happening in relation to people or places on that project, and tasks and assignments, right, that can be logged. We've just recently integrated the Outlook integration, right? So I don't even have to log into Salesforce to capture this, just straight from Outlook. I can integrate that, and so it can be captured here. What's masterful about this is that it's capturing my engagement with the project, but it could also capture Tracy's, it could also capture Mel's, it could also capture any of the other units, right? And so that I can see everything that's happening with respect to one project all in one place. And I no longer have to pick up the phone and talk to 27 different people to get a good sense of what's happening. So this is a sample project record. What's next is the kind of aggregation of what you can do with that information. So zoom out and see how all the data can come together. And this is really helpful for folks like Tracy, who I report to, right? Or even senior leaders who want to see a better pulse across the university of translational activity. And so I have 4 different widgets here, but there can be a bazillion, right? And you can customize these depending on the data that you have within your system. The first one is just a traditional funnel, right? This gives us a quick sense of where active projects sit in the pipeline, what are at the earlier stages and what are at the post-commercialization stages, where there could be bottlenecks, right? A good place to see that in the aggregate. The charts right next to it are for IP impact. The first one shows how many projects within my mock system have IP attached to them and how many do not. The bar chart underneath it is a commercialization impact chart. So how many of those projects have spun out a company? Often useful information for your government relations team to know, right? On the right, this is an often desired statistic. How much translational activity is occurring in what colleges across the university. It helps us see where that's happening, and then helps us make really wise and strategic decisions in terms of resource allocation on that front. And then at the very bottom is just a financial summary. So you can easily just pull together a table that shows you of these projects, right? How much that costs, how much you're receiving in from some external source, or how much is provided by the company itself, or in kind, cost share kind of resources. An easy table you can pull together for that. Okay, so that was the first two, and those are squarely focused on research translation, which was the MVP, which was the point of the project. But we did note that with the existing functionality, you can leverage this data and also use it as a tool for tracking external engagement as well. And as someone who's in corporate engagement, that's of course something I found very valuable about the tool and building out. And so with just a few extra fields and a few extra records, right, we were able to do that. And I want to show you what that looks like here. And so this is a behind the scenes look at a sample account record. And you're going to like, wait a minute, that looks exactly the same as a project record. And yeah, that's the point. A lot of this stuff is very much similar, certainly looks that way. And so at the header, you see very similar information, title with those options for editing on the right. You see the same related quick links section, but you can modify those, right? So for this account record, what this looks like is the contacts are all the people that we have in our system that work at that organization. The affiliated contacts is super fun because you'll have people that move from organization to organization, right? And so you would go into that contact record and you would change their primary organization because they've moved, but you don't lose sight of what their previous organizations were. And that shows up here as affiliated contacts. So I can see, we're picking on Agilent because they're good friends of ours here in Delaware, the number of people who no longer work at Agilent, but used to. And that's super helpful information to have. You can also have a connection to the projects here. We have 0 in this mock example, but all the projects that Agilent here in Wilmington is on, this would show up right in the quick link section. So it's a really easy way to see that in the aggregate. Moving down, the detailed information is very similar to what you saw on the project record. But here we're able to capture like some key demographic information about the company, things like size and type of organization and industry classification. My work is in life sciences in particular, so it's really helpful for me to be able to distill the companies that are working in life sciences or biotechnology, and we have a field for that. We've also built in fields for like research priorities, right? So we can align quickly on companies' interests and faculty expertise. Now those are just text fields, right, for us, and you can build that out as any way you see fit. And then the same activity section on the right, where you can track meetings, calls, tasks, just like you can in the other type of record. And again, this is all easily integrated. We use Outlook so that you don't even have to be in this system to have this stuff tracked. You can do it straight through your email provider. So then this last slide, as part of our little mock demo, is what a dashboard can look like with this information. So now we're not talking about projects. Now we're talking about organizations and the relationship health of those organizations. And again, where I've just pulled together 4 widget examples, there's a myriad here we could have shown, and you can build and customize yourself. The first one here is a chart that shows me actually activity by recency, right? So I can see what companies that I own, right? Or you could make it, companies in the entire system we've had contact with in the past 30 days. We haven't had contact with between 30 and, 90 days, 90 days plus, right? So that's a really good way of looking at the funnel and who needs some attention, right? Because they haven't talked to you in a while. We also, in my line of work, and certainly Tracy's, we get asked all the time about the diversification of engagement, right? How are companies or organizations engaging with your university? And so we built a field for that, right? And so we can mark whether it's through sponsored research, whether it's through gifts and development, right? Whether it's in an internship or co-op capacity, often through career services, right? Or if it's a tech transfer thing, right? A license or sub-license. And what's great about this is, at first people will go, no, we're not going to share that information with you. That's confidential information. And we've been able to overcome that barrier because we're not necessarily entering in here the size of the gift, right? I just want to know, are they giving or not giving, right? I'm not looking at the details to the license. That is confidential information that still lives squarely within our tech transfer office. But I'd like to know, is there a license, right? Is that relationship been established through that avenue? And so this is a really good way of aggregating that information. Here on the right, like I said before, I'm in the life sciences, so I really want to drill in on the biotechnology industry in particular. And so this shows me, of my accounts, that are classified as biotechnology in the biotechnology industry, how many of them are on projects, and company crushing it at the top is crushing it, right? And so that would just help us see who's engaged in that research translation portfolio. And then, of course, at the bottom is just an alphabetical list of all the accounts that have me as a relationship owner. I promise there's more than 4 and they don't all start with A, but that was that was what we could show here on the screen. So that was our chance to just kind of dive in and show you this is what it actually looks like operationally for us to go in and do this. And I can't stress enough about the importance of dashboards and how flexible they are, right? That I can make something that's just for my view, and by make it, I mean Mel helps me with a lot of that. Or you can make it that a dashboard that's applicable for a certain type of role across your university, or you can make it applicable for a certain type of hierarchy, right? Like your SVP or your VPR, right, has a dashboard that shows this kind of stuff. It's really flexible and a very powerful tool. So I will almost be done talking here as I just come out of the demo part and come back to our slide deck to just kind of wrap it all up a little bit and talk about, okay, we've done all this and we've shown you a little bit what it looks like, but can we say anything about the return on investment? And just for like transparency's sake, we're making this recording in November of 2025, where we formally launched this as a tool in the spring of 2025. So we're still only about 6 months in. But I can say with confidence that there have been some serious short-term returns on investment that give me even further confidence that there's going to be those long-term gains. So in the short term, what I want to say about that is that the gains are largely operational, right? We've seen enhanced cross-unit collaboration and communication. So teams that once worked in isolation are now able to share visibility into projects and partnerships. And I can actually put a value amount to how important that's been. Secondly, the platform has really enabled us to be more strategic and responsive with partner engagement and coordinating partner engagement, right? So it's helping us be a unified face to our external partners, which we've traditionally struggled to do. And I know lots of universities do. And third, there's really been increased efficiency and responsiveness and visibility for our faculty, right, in particular, and staff, of course, who support translational research. So as I kind of joked at before, like the process before was I've got to call this person and like actually call this person and this person, right? And that takes a fair amount of time. Now with a tool like this, there's certainly increased operational efficiencies. In the long run, though, it's pretty obvious, right? Well, we hope that these efficiencies translate into measurable outcomes. So we hope that this will produce, greater success in our translational research and commercialization pipeline, which would lead to increased revenue from such a pipeline, right, for research and innovation activities. I will be transparent about that. That's certainly a goal. We also really want to see stronger and more strategic partnerships. So being able to leverage this data to help us across the enterprise decide priority accounts and how we're going to come together as an enterprise to move those accounts forward as opposed to individual units. And like lastly, but certainly not least, this has given us the opportunity to provide clearer pathways and better institutional support for our faculty innovators. This gives our faculty members a lot to leverage when they're trying to, in these times, perhaps even pivot to be better about external engagement as it applies to their lab, right? So this really helps us ensure that we can help them move their ideas further and faster, right? And that's the ultimate goal of the entire program. So with that, I will hand it off to Mel, who I think I've already hinted at is kind of the mastermind behind the scenes and help. She's one of our Salesforce administrators and has really helped us build this and respond to our challenges and concerns along the way.
Thanks, Nicole. So I'm Melanie Schleiniger. I am the Salesforce administrator for this Salesforce instance. I went from 20 users to 50 users, which is pretty exciting and more to add. I can't wait. But of course, there were some challenges going through this project. Like Nicole mentioned, that we're used to having silos within the university. So that's something we had to deal with. Redundant systems, they had to enter duplicate data one place and then do it again in Salesforce. And then budgetary limitations for data integration. Unfortunately, the data is being entered manually as of now. Maybe that'll change in the future. Our next steps, like Nicole talked about, every Salesforce user is set up for Outlook integration. They just haven't been trained yet. So in 2 weeks, all users are going to be trained on Outlook integration. And then we want to expand access to additional units by telling our story and showing our success stories and ROI. So more users to come, I hope. And now back to Tracy.
So we hope that you found this information insightful as you consider resources and tools to accelerate your own institution's research translation. If you'd like to learn more, we just touched upon a few highlights. Please connect directly with Sarisha at Prizio or me. Here's our contact information. And I'll say that the Prizio team really made the process engaging and smooth, particularly for me and many of my colleagues who have never used a CRM system. So we thank Prizio. And finally, next slide. NSF's support was critical, and we wish to thank and acknowledge their team for their confidence and support. This investment is truly making a difference at the University of Delaware and our collective efforts to enhance the impact of research. So thank you, and we look forward to speaking with you more about Salesforce supporting research translation. Have a nice day.